What's up, horror fam? Welcome back to the channel. Hope everyone is doing well and having a good day. So for today's horror news and update, it's award season. We knew award season was coming. We've been kind of in the thick of it thus far. We finally got the Oscar/Academy Award, however you want to refer to it. The nominations have started to come out, and I am thrilled to see 3 horror films making the list, making their breakthrough and getting nominated for various things. We've talked about this time and time again last year in 2024 that we were hoping, especially when the Golden Globes was coming around, and that was one of the last award sessions, shows, whatever you want to call it, that happened in 2024, and we were keeping our fingers crossed that at least some films would make it as far as being nominated and potentially even win. The Substance was one of the ones that was heavy in talks. It got nominated for 5 Golden Globes. It only came out with 1, but I don't want to say just only. That was phenomenal that it came out with a win for Demi Moore for Best Actress. Well deserved. She was phenomenal in The Substance. And we talked about the Substance leading up to the Golden Globes, even after the Golden Globes, that we were hoping that this would be a time where people would start taking horror films a bit more serious when it came to award season, for these various things, that these actors, these creators, directors, everyone involved in these films would start to break through that ceiling where horror films would start being nominated more and more for how great they really are. Because I think, as we all know, and I think horror films are vastly overlooked when it comes to award season. They don't have their own category, obviously, and for the vast majority, they just get passed over. They see it as, oh, it's a horror film, moving along, don't want to consider it. So I think The Substance, as we've mentioned, laid some foundation for the genre to start being looked at a bit more. And now that we're in 2025, we are starting to see what I think is a bit of that breakthrough. So we are going to cover up on 3 films that have been receiving nominations. So let's get into these details. So as I just mentioned, we have 3 films to cover off on for today's horror news update. Nosferatu nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Production Design. So we're going to go through these articles fairly quickly because we all know these films by now, especially Nosferatu, heavily talked in 2024, leading up to its Christmas Day release, and we've covered the film in great detail. So really, we're just going to be focusing on the fact that it's been nominated for this award. So in addition to The Substance, which we will be covering off on that, it's the very next article we will be going into. So don't worry, we are going to be covering off on that. In addition to The Substance being nominated in 5 categories at the Academy Awards this year, Robert Eggers' Nosferatu is up for 4 Oscars of its own this coming March. A big-time box office success story, Nosferatu has thus far scared up $156 million at the worldwide box office, and it can now officially call itself an Academy Award nominee. Nosferatu has been nominated for Best Cinematography, Best Production Design, Best Makeup and Hairstyling, and Best Costume Design, competing against the following films. And we're not going to read through all these films. I mean, I'll scroll through it really closely. We'll call out some of the ones. I think there might be some competition there. Emilia Perez, that's been one, and The Brutalists have been on the rampage. And I say the rampage of just cleaning house, right? Winning awards, getting a lot of attention, getting a lot of praise for those films, and rightfully so. They're great films, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're not, but we're obviously shooting for Nosferatu, right? We want them to win Best Cinematography. And in my opinion, and I might be biased because this is a horror channel, we focus on horror, we love horror, so I could have some bias there where I think they had great cinematography as far as compared to these others. Production design, again, you have The Brutalist there. And Wicked's been cleaning house too when it comes to some of these awards. So hopefully Nosferatu can edge out Wicked and The Brutalist. Best Makeup and Hairstyling, again, you have Wicked there, Emilia Perez. We also have some competition against our own genre. The Substance is in there as well. If I had to choose between Nosferatu or The Substance, it'd be tough. And I don't want to necessarily have to choose, but if I was forced to, I think I would go with Nosferatu, just because, again, that I've mentioned this in previous videos, time period piece films. I love them. And I think there's just a bit more that goes into them when you're trying to present what things look like in that time period. I think it takes a bit more effort versus more, nowadays films. I just think the Nosferatu film is just absolutely, phenomenal when it comes to that. Best costume design, again, we have Wicked in here. I think Wicked might win this one. I think Nosferatu, I want Nosferatu to win, obviously, but I think Wicked is going to be some stiff competition when it comes to costume design. As far as Gladiator 2, I just recently watched Gladiator 2. It was an okay film. I don't think it was a necessary film. I think it's just was probably made as a passion project. I don't think it was necessarily needed. Gladiator was a great film in its own right for the time it came out. I don't think after all this time Gladiator 2 was necessarily needed. I was involved because I wanted to see how the story was going to play out and how they were going to tie it to the original film. But again, just felt like it was necessary. It almost felt like in some ways Gladiator 2 could have been right to a streaming film. Didn't need a theatrical release, just put it right to streaming to garner some new subscribers, new content on a streaming platform, but it was okay. So the 97th Academy Awards air March 2nd from the Dolby Theater at Ovation Hollywood. Robert Eggers' Nosferatu is, of course, a remake of the 1922 classic directed by F.W. Murnau, which itself was an unofficial adaptation of Bram Stoker's legendary horror novel Dracula. Nosferatu joins the Francis Ford Coppola directed Bram Stoker's Dracula as an Oscar nominee, with the 1992 film winning categories including Best Costume Design and Makeup. We go on to some of the casting, which we've covered. When the Blu-ray, 4K, and DVD will be coming out, which is on February 18th, so just 3 weeks away. But again, it's already on digital for rent and purchase, so you can check it out there. Screenshot from the film. Now we have an updated poster here with 4 Academy Award nominations, and then they list them out there. And that's where this one cuts off. So very excited to see Nosferatu, getting these nominations. So, very excited to see that. Hopefully they can come out with some wins here. Now, keeping with the topic, we are now moving on to The Substance. Oscars 2025, The Substance, nominated for Best Picture, Best Leading Actress, and Best Director. So let's get into these details. French filmmaker Coralie Fargate's body horror masterpiece, The Substance, was one of the best horror movies of last year. I would agree it was up there. We did a review of the film, and as you probably know, and as I've mentioned plenty of times, if you know my take on the film, I enjoyed it right up until the last 8 minutes of the film. I think the last 8 minutes of the film was just didn't feel like it was in true form for the rest of the film. While I think some people feel that it did make sense, I think just the last 8 minutes was just a bit I don't want to say corny, but it was a bit much as when you look at the rest of the film. I think it could have been tightened up a little bit. So that would be my only critique of it. Otherwise, overall, I enjoyed The Substance. It's one of the rare horror films to come along in recent years that had actually been generating Academy Awards buzz. Well, the nominations for this year's Oscars were announced today. The Substance received some major recognition. For starters, Demi Moore has been nominated for Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role for her performance as Elizabeth Sparkle in The Substance, a fading celebrity who injects herself with a cell-replicating substance that literally makes her give birth to a younger version of herself, who is played by Margaret Qualley. It's a performance that's already resulted in Moore taking home the Golden Globes trophy for Best Performance by an Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. Side note, if you didn't know, the reason why it falls into musical or comedy is because there is no horror category. So this is where it ended up, which sets the stage for a potential Academy Awards win. I think the fact that she won the Golden Globe for Best Performance by an Actress gives her a leg up on winning the Academy Award Oscar for Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role. I think it does give her a leg up. So fingers crossed that she does come away with this one as well. The entire history of the Oscars, only a handful of horror movies have ever received a nomination for Best Picture, with standout exceptions including The Exorcist, Jaws, The Silence of the Lambs, The Sixth Sense, Black Swan, and Get Out. The only film on that list to actually win Best Picture was Silence of the Lambs, which took home the statue 33 years ago. So it's been 33 years since we've seen a horror film win this. I skipped over a bit here. Corley Faggot Revenge has also been nominated for an Oscar for Best Director, while The Substance has become one of the rare films to be nominated for Best Picture, which we just went through those details. The Best Picture nomination alone for The Substance is, needless to say, a massive win for the horror genre. Absolutely agree. And horror has quite frankly, never been bestowed upon a horror movie as wonderfully bonkers as the body horror instantly Farragut unleashed upon us last year. Elsewhere on the list of this year's Academy Awards nominations, The Substance was nominated for Best Original Screenplay and Best Makeup and Hairstyling, giving the film 5 Oscar nominations in total. So let's just scroll down here as we did with with Nosferatu. So you have here Best Picture. So we have The Substance. Again, I think here when I look at this list, what stands out for me is The Brutalist, Emilia Perez, and Wicked. I think are going to be the stiff competition for The Substance. That's not to say the rest of these films aren't worthy of their nominations, aren't great films, but when I think about the top ones that are probably going to be ones to win would be The Brutalist, Emilia Perez, and Wicked, along with The Substance. But of course, we would love to see The Substance win Best Picture and break that 33-year drought. Best Actress, again, you have Emilia Perez, you have Wicked here, along with Demi Moore. Fingers crossed, because Demi Moore won the Golden Globe, let's hope she wins Best Actress as well. And again, we still have the same films. Brutalist, Emilia Perez for are on here for Best Director as well. Original Screenplay, The Brutalist. I think it's going to come down to either The Brutalist or The Substance for Original Screenplay. And Best Makeup and Hairstyling. We just spoke about Nosferatu, and here again, I think this is going to be stiff competition, because I could see any one of these films winning it. I would love to see it go to Nosferatu, as we just talked about. As far as I love time period pieces, I think it takes a lot more effort when you're creating something as a time period piece versus modern day. I would love to see Nosferatu win it, but if The Substance won it, I would be just as happy as well. But I do think for this one, Wicked might win this one. I'm thinking Wicked's going to come out ahead on makeup and hairstyling. As we already mentioned, the 97th Academy Awards airs March 2nd from Dolby Theater at Ovation Hollywood. And then we scroll down here, we have an updated poster, saying 5 Academy Award nominations with the ones we just covered. And that's where our article ends. So again, very excited to see The Substance getting some more recognition for the effort and the work that they put in on this film. And lastly, we didn't have this one originally, as far as in the title, but I think it does still deserve a mention. Alien Romulus just became an Academy Awards nominee. So as we just talked about, as this article kicks off with, both The Substance and Nosferatu have received a handful of major nominations for the Academy Awards, but they're not the only horror movie getting recognition this year. Fede Alvarez, Alien Romulus has received a nomination for Best Visual Effects, competing against Better Man, Dune Part 2, Kingdom of Planet of the Apes, and Wicked. It's interesting to note that Ridley Scott's original sci-fi horror classic Alien took home the trophy for Best Visual Effects at the Oscars in 1980, and James Cameron's action-packed sequel Aliens followed suit by winning the same major award at the Oscars in 1987. Alien 3 was later nominated in the same category at the Academy Awards in 1993, but did not win, which I can understand. Alien 3, even today, Alien 3 is not very loved. It's not loved by many people of the genre or people of the franchise. I find Alien 3 to be a good film. I actually enjoy it. I don't want to say it's a great film, but it is a good film, especially if you see, I think they're what they call like the director's cut or extended cut. If you buy it in physical media, it does come with 2 versions. I think the digital as well does. And it actually tells you where those scenes have been put in, because they splice them in, and you can see kind of how the filming, the look of it shifts from what was originally provided as a final film versus the scenes they put in to continue the story. So if you look closely, you can tell the difference in the filming, that it wasn't final with that final polish, so to speak, right? So I can understand why Alien 3 didn't win in 1993, but I still think Alien 3 is a worthwhile film in the franchise. I mean, it's far better than some of the ones that we got after Alien 3. So again, understanding why it didn't win. It wasn't until 2013 that the Alien franchise popped back up on the Oscars, with Prometheus being nominated for its visual effects. This year's nomination for Alien Romulus will notably mark the franchise's first appearance at the Academy Awards in 12 years. You know, not that big of a drought, but still a long drought. I mean, when you think, I mean, just for the franchise, 12 years, that's fine. I mean, there haven't really been too many alien films outside. I mean, again, we had Prometheus, we had the sequel to that, but even the sequel to that didn't live up to the original. Alien Romulus has been heavily criticized for the visual effects employed to bring the late Ian Holm back to the screen, with Alvarez and his team actually going back in and attempting to fix the issue for the film's home video release. While the effects work may have been a little questionable, it clearly did not prove to be a deterrent for Academy voters this year. Now, I talked about this on the daily episode video, so if you haven't checked that out already, go check it out. It's already uploaded on the channel, but I did cover on this a bit because there is another horror film, Trash's Revenge, as it relates to Return of the Living Dead, who's going to be doing this. They're going to be using CGI to be bringing back 2 actors who are part of the original film, who have passed on. They're no longer with us, but they're going to be utilizing CGI to bring them back to life for this Trash's Revenge film. They obviously, as this just covered, they did it here as well. I don't agree with that. I think that's just something, I don't want to, in my opinion, it's poor taste. Those individuals are no longer with us. They've passed on. Now, obviously, if the estate is giving you permission to do it, I understand, but I just don't think it's something that should be done. Those individuals have passed on. They're no longer with us. Let them, leave it be, right? So with this being done, I think this could hurt. Not the fact that they did it, it's the fact that it didn't look good in the theatrical release, and they had to try to fix it for the home release, and still, even with the home release, it doesn't look, tight, doesn't look pristine. So the night, we've already said this, March 2nd is when the awards happen. You can get Alien Romulus now on physical media or streaming. So streaming on Hulu, you can also buy digital or rent on digital, and here is an updated poster saying Academy Award nomination for Best Visual Effects. So, all right, everyone, that is going to do it for today's horror news update. For award season, we have Nosferatu, The Substance, and Alien Romulus. All now can say they are Academy Award nominated films. Now, let's keep our fingers crossed that they can all say that they are Academy Award winning films, especially Nosferatu and The Substance, since they have the most chances to win. Again, Alien Romulus is nominated for 1. Let's hope they win. I just don't think they will, just because of that. But hey, they at least got nominated. So, all right, everyone, that's going to do it for today's horror news update. Let us know down in the comment section, do you think any of these films have a chance of winning an Academy Award? And if so, which one do you think they're going to win? Also, if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And to all of my subscribers, new and existing, thank you for all the support. It is greatly appreciated. And we will see you at the next one. Peace.